Chammy, Danny, good to see you both. We're all in dark blue today.
Look, I'm wearing a hat.
Oh, look at it.
Oh, wow.
Dusted it off.
An original.
Wow.
30 years.
Did Buzz give that to you?
I don't know. Actually,
Super League hat.
it's an original.
That'd be worth a lot of money.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I remember, well, because we were given gear back then. Like, you
Yeah.
know, everyone was handed freebies. Journos get freebies. And I remember running, when I used to be able to run on Bondi Beach without my cat many years ago.
Or shirt.
No, it's definitely a shirt. I was wearing a Super League T-shirt.
Wow.
And two people used to walk the boardwalk very frequently back then. One was Ian Frickberg, who was a very big media executive back in the day and a big part of Super League. Don't think he ever saw me running in my Super League T-shirt. But the late Peter Frelingos saw me running in that one day. He gave me like a clap and a standing ovation. It was right in the time of, you know, the Super League war. I'll never forget. He was good on you, mate. Yeah.
Oh, God. Company man. Oh,
he wasn't company.
Were you at
man.
9 at the time?
No. I was at Sports Weekly when it all happened. I think I've told this story.
Sports Weekly was a news.
It was Pacific Publications, which was, I think, half owned, and it was before I went to Rugby League Week, and I remember when it all happened, and
So it's 30 years ago this week.
Yeah.
Chammy, you were still in.
Were you alive,
nappies.
Chammy?
Yeah, well, 30 years ago, it erupted, right?
Yeah, this week.
April Fool's Day,
I
30
was
years ago.
6 years old.
Still, I would regard it as the most mind-blowing yarn I've ever seen.
Yep.
Who
in
broke
rugby
it?
league.
I think it was Steve Crawley might have got it first. He was very much entwined in that whole environment. I think he might have had it, but I remember.
And where was he at the time?
I don't remember. Maybe I'd be guessing, but I'm not sure if that's actually right. That's my memory tells me that might have happened, but I don't know for sure. But I do remember being sent down to, I think it was Wollongong Showground. I might be a little bit wrong on this, the timing, but I remember my editor at Sports Weekly had got his hands on a Star League contract. It was being called Star League, and said, we've got to go find out what this is about. I go ask some questions. We're hearing John Rebo's involved. And I think Rebo, again, pardon me if I'm wrong, but I think he was the CEO of the Broncos at that time.
Yep.
And I remember it being a dark Wollongong showground. Broncos must have played the Steelers. Timing, I may be a little bit out with this, but that's how I remember it. And I had to go and front Rebo about what's this Star League thing that's going on. Just lied to me. Don't know what you're talking about, mate. Like face to face, like, you know. Yeah, and then it all started to blow up. I might have already started to blow up by then, but my memory is that he denied it to me and said knew nothing about it. So
The big breakout yarn for it, I seem to remember, was both Sunday papers had it, and it was front page. And I was like,
well, that might have been it. Yeah,
and you dead set thought it was an April Fool's joke.
yeah.
You thought, nah, this ain't happening. And then it
Was
just
it
set
sold
up.
as a breakaway league? Is that how it first came out?
Yeah, it was literally like what you see with Live Golf now, what you've seen with the European Super League in football. If you're across that yarn, they tried to break away from the establishment. And it was
clandestine stuff when people were being bailed up in hotel rooms, not made, but being offered hundreds of thousands of dollars to sign contracts there, and then being taken by a bus into hotel rooms, and they'd all have a beer while they're waiting, and they were being taken in one by one and being given a check to sign up with someone, and then bailed out the back door so they couldn't tell the person coming into the room what they got. Then they'd all get together later, and some blokes had been dudded, some blokes were stoked.
It'd be a great yarn today.
Chammy,
in this
you would
modern
have
world of
been
media.
in heaven.
Oh,
And
you
there's-
Could have
sounds
been,
great.
it was like you bathing in like a bath full of milk chocolate or something like that. I don't know. You couldn't have imagined anything better.
That sounds great. I
And
wish
there-
I was part of
There's
it.
a
still
time
some
machine.
people around.
Get
There's
back
still
there.
At the forefront, like Nick Politis was heavily involved back then. There are some agents like Wayne Beavis, Sam Ayoub, George Mimas, Alan Gainey, Steve Gillis used to be a journo. I used to drive him down to Wollongong. We'd drive down together back in the day because he would bum a lift, and then all of a sudden he could have been doing Rolls Royce rides.
Now he's got a rival podcast.
And there were people like Gus was heavily involved. He was
front and centre in the negotiations.
he was doing the deals. Yeah?
He sat across from Gordon Tallis. Gordon Tallis tells the story and said, "You're just a bench player. You're only worth this, mate." That's why Gordy sat out the year for St George. He was that angry about it in order to take up his contract, which he had to sit out a year to sit up. Oh, it was part of the reason, but he wanted to go and play for the Bronx. So he took off to the
I remember Gordy back in those days. And I mean, like Ricky was a big part of it. Ricky Stewart, there were private jets used to try, like, because
he was insane, Chammy.
Yeah,
insane.
I think James Packer used his private jet to fly Ricky to Sydney to try and sign him away from Super League. And the stories were just, you could write, you would have liked it, Chammy, Mr. Speculation. You could write anything and you'd be right for 5 minutes and then wrong 5 minutes later.
A very terrible accusation to make. I don't make things up. So
Mr.
I had to correct
Speculation.
myself
But you
there.
turned speculation into fact. So in a way, you are Mr. Speculation.
I'm over this conversation.
Anyhow, back in the day, I'll take the hat off now.
That's it. No, leave it on. Leave it on, dear, for the whole time.
Mate, you'll get sacked if you leave that on.
Yeah.
Why?
Because
You're a Holt Street lackey. That's what you are with that. No.
you've always
One
wanted to
last
work
one
for
on
News
Super
Corp.
League. So I likened it to the fact that maybe I think there was a Japanese soldier who was seen on a remote Pacific island in the 1970s, and he jumped out and thought that the war was still on, World War II. Are there any of those types hunting around rugby league at the moment, thinking that the war is still on?
I
League and
will
ARL?
say to you that some people I speak to refer to other people in the game still, he's just a super leaguer. He's a
Wow.
don't forget, he's a super leaguer.
Wow.
So is that the animosity with
Yeah.
News Corp and a lot of people goes
Oh.
back to the Super League?
Well,
like Gus, is that Gus's
it's been 30 years of News Corp bagging Gus,
because of Super League?
100%. 100%. Like they have waged a decades-long campaign against him. Some journos, obviously respect Gus and get on with him there, but some don't, and they've made his life difficult. And I had it for a long time because I was on the other side because I worked for the Sun Herald later on.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of animosity and a lot of it carried through.
So
And-
did the Sun Herald not cover the Super League?
No,
Did
they
the
covered it.
They everyone's like, did News Corp cover the ARL?
I don't remember whether they covered games that were played. I don't remember, but I think the Sun Herald would have covered both. Yeah, but it was a lot of divides, a lot of division. People don't like people still
I love it. It's
from
great.
that day, and people are still involved in the game. Like the great Shane Richardson was there, very heavily involved too. But there are not that many left. But there I do get people refer to people as super leaguers from that time. So. It was the biggest story I've ever seen, and it definitely
Bigger than DCE.
it definitely has repercussions still to this time.
Now, we were going to start there, but we won't.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
What about this Super League over here? Like,
Why?
did you know, like,
What?
Adam, if I was going to go onto another podcast, I would ring you and say, Adam, is it okay? I would ring. In fact, I've been asked to be on other podcasts. And I said, I have to just check with my podcast brothers whether that's cool or not. And there I
The
was
moment James Graham calls.
scrolling through my Instagram, and up pops Mr. Speculation.
Chamois.
Don't be a hater, bro, because you didn't get invited.
Don't be a hater.
To be fair, I think you've done the buy round before. Weren't you on the round table?
Yeah, you were, actually.
This was, but that
Say
was
shush.
long before
what?
we became a thing.
No, that's not true.
Well,
That's not true.
well,
We've
since-
been doing this 3 years now,
Have
and you
we?
did it in that
Have we?
period.
I
So
think-
watch your mouth before you start throwing
We've been doing it for
accusations.
3 years.
Have we?
No.
Yes, this is
Surely
our third
not.
season.
What happened to the
It
first
is.
two?
Anyway.
Anyway, I would have asked your permission, and so I want to check: is it okay to go on a rival podcast? But there you were,
Lack of respect.
giving a lot
You
of
know what, mate?
information out.
If you don't feel respected, walk. Do a Cherry-Evans, go. Okay?
Yeah,
I don't care if
but
you go.
You have been running a smear campaign against me for a
I've
while.
been doing that for ages.
I don't want to start with DCE.
Okay.
And we won't. We're going to go to Chammy's yarn from 24 hours ago, Payne Haas, because this opens up for mine a whole other discussion about where are we going with origin eligibility. Because at the moment, it doesn't make sense. Payne Haas wants to play for Samoa.
Yep.
And that was the yarn that you broke, Chammy. He wants to move away from playing for the Kangaroos. Mal Meninga obviously not too happy about it because arguably he's the best player in the game. What does this mean, though, for Payne Haas playing for New South Wales?
It doesn't mean anything because under the rules, he can play for New South Wales and represent Samoa at the end of the year. what it means for the future of these antiquated eligibility rules. I think that the game needs to sit down, and nothing is afoot at the moment, but the game needs to sit down and work out what do they do going forward. Because if you look at the game is not the same as it used to be. So society is not the same as it used to be. The Origin teams 20 years ago didn't have the amount of players who were eligible for multiple rugby league playing nations as they do now. So if I can understand people, well, there's an argument that people who make themselves available for Tonga or Samoa shouldn't be playing Origin.
Why not?
I don't agree with it.
But who's arguing that? Who's saying that? A lot of people aren't they tier 2 nations as we know it?
Well, there are people who think that they should be able to choose. If you don't play for Australia, it's this notion that the Origin games are a selection trial.
But that's so out
for
of date.
Australia. The selection trial for Australia is the NRL competition. That's your 30 weeks.
But that's how it's viewed now, because historically, New Zealand and England have been the other two powerhouses in international rugby league, or the only two powerhouses in rugby league outside of Australia. But the way things are going, Samoa and Tonga for the next 20 years are going to be as good, if not better, than New Zealand, England, and potentially Australia.
The best thing for rugby league is for the other nations to become stronger. And the best thing for rugby league is Australia to lose for a while, because you see how rugby union, while it may be struggling in Australia, internationally, globally, it is a stronger position than rugby league.
You hate that too, don't you? I can tell you.
Of course I hate that.
You hate that.
I do hate that, because I think we've got a superior product. And at the moment, we are struggling internationally. So the NRL or the ARL Commission need to make a decision. While they do run the Kangaroos, they need to make a decision for the best thing of the game, not the Kangaroos.
So what would you like it to look like?
I have no issue with Payne Haas, Stephen Crichton, if Payne Haas plays for Samoa, Stephen Crichton, Luai, Tino for Malawi, all these guys playing Origin and playing Samoa and Tonga. I'll take it one step further. I'd have no issue, if you are eligible to play for New South Wales and Queensland, I have no issue you playing for New Zealand or England. So what's the difference?
Kalyn Ponga and Victor Radley.
I don't like people swapping. You shouldn't be able to swap. Once you make your decision,
that's
swapped? Your team. Well, technically, he has to get an exemption from the.
Because he only played in the nines, didn't he?
Doesn't matter. He still needs an exemption. But someone like Victor Radley, he's born in Sydney.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't he be able to play for New South Wales? Because he wants to play for England. Does that make him any less of a New South Welshman? He's born here.
What about
Adam Fanua-Blake, played for New Zealand, played for Tonga. He's born in Meadowbank, played for the Mascot Jets. Why shouldn't he be able to play for New South Wales?
What are the eligibility rules as it stands for someone born here as to what state they play for? Because that should then mirror the international eligibility, i.e. there was a little bit of controversy around it when Greg Inglis decided that Maxwell was in Queensland.
Yeah.
But,
that's in Queensland.
But the law was that because he played his first junior footy after a certain age.
So there's a whole heap of
Queensland.
criteria. We can get it up for later in the show.
But say, for instance, it's 15 years of age, that wherever you played your first footy after the age of 15, it might be a bit younger, I'm not sure. That's where you
Here
are.
we go.
Origin.
So the rule state, you go through it. In which state were you born? Then it goes to which state did you play rugby league for the majority of your years from under 6 to under 18? In which state of Australia did you spend the majority of your years at school? In which state did you first participate in a junior representative competition? So all these questions are being asked. Did your father play state of origin? And if so, for whom?
That's so convoluted.
So there's a whole list. Yeah, it is convoluted, right?
Why don't you just make it wherever you played your first footy after the age of 15?
But that's decided between New South Wales and Queensland. Sorry. To be able to determine whether you're eligible to play origin at all, have you resided in New South Wales or Queensland prior to your 13th birthday?
There you go.
What happens to... I mean, we're trying to hope that Melbourne bring players up, as you know, we want them to develop players.
A handful so far.
Well, do they ever get to play state of origin?
Yeah, in 50 years, if you get your development pathways right.
But we got to get to a point. They're looking at Super League, the NRL, and I think that Peter V'landys is moving down this path. The best thing for the NRL is the best thing for International Rugby League. And we're at a point now we've got to make a decision. By stopping guys, if that is the way that people want to go, by saying if you play for Samoa or Tonga, you can't play Origin, what we're taking Tino, Crichton, Luai, Haas all out of Origin. Is that a better product?
Did you want Sonny Bill to play Origin?
Did he reside in Australia?
Yes.
Did you
before the age of 13?
Well, there's pictures of him in a New South Wales jumper.
I'm not sure he was 13, but he was certainly...
If he meets the rules,
Sam
if you are
Burgess,
eligible, no. I don't think it's fair that it matters which team you play for. If you're able to play for Samoa or Tonga, you should play for New Zealand and England. Victor Radley should be playing for a couple of years ago, he should have been playing for New South Wales and then going to play.
What about a Sam Burgess type?
No, because he didn't come here before he was 13.
If you ask Payne Haas, Jerome Luai, Stephen Crichton, okay, guys, unfortunately, you're going to have to make a call here. Play Origin or play for...
But it's not fair because some
country.
people, and this is why I admire Andrew Fafita.
Because that's what Victor Radley was faced with.
He forewent the money. He decided not to play Origin, give up 90 grand in payments, and play for Tonga. Play for Tonga for nothing. What
Tamalolo did no, he wasn't.
Well, he wasn't eligible to play Origin because he played for New Zealand. But these guys now, it's a hard. But you get $3,000 to play for Samoa or Tonga or for any nation.
Australia,
any nation now. They've changed the rules under the CBA. They've reduced the payments for the Kangaroos to try and have parity. So it's a lot of money for some people to say, okay, I'm going to turn down 90 grand because the same people they want to represent in playing for Tonga and Samoa, their family, are the people that they're leaving shortchanged by not playing for New South Wales by giving up that money. So I can understand it's a tough one. There's no mid-season test. That's gone. And even when there was a mid-season test, it was before Origin anyway.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a selection trial.
It's rubbish.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mate, your form in the NRL season dictates whether or not you get picked in the Australian team at the end of the year. People who say otherwise, they're just trying to protect Australia and make sure that they're the number one team in the world. Payne Haas, if he wants to play for Samoa, should be playing for New South Wales. It stands that way, and New Zealand.
I'm happy with all that. Yeah,
but back to that question though, Victor Radley was made to make a choice.
Yeah,
England or New South Wales, and he went with England. He picked England.
Respect to him.
So these guys, again, I'll ask the question: if they had to make a decision today, which one would they go with the heart, or would they go with who they've already represented at state level?
I'd be putting words in their mouth, but that's the big issue. That's the big issue.
I'd guess heart. But if it means that much to them,
it's a catch-22. Yes, right now. But if you grow the international game and allow them to play for their nations and strengthen that, then one day, what's to say that you're not going to be getting the broadcast rights and the interest in the international game where you're getting paid 30 grand to go and represent Samoa and getting paid 30 grand to represent
That's
Tonga.
the growth area for the game, isn't it? Because I mean, that's where I know how agitated you get about rugby, but that's an area where league has potential to grow. Like we talk about expansion, all that sort of stuff, and I do worry about the way the league's expanding. But I do think if they can get international football humming, all of a sudden that's a growth area
and a viable product.
Yeah, at
You'll
the
never
moment,
get near rugby. Not in this lifetime.
No, they won't. But in terms of in the southern hemisphere, it could become a really interesting thing.
Yeah,
I think.
Can we do a little?
Jamie, can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, fire up. Mate.
Your collar is annoying me.
What's happening?
You've got it up, and I know you're trying to look smart in a shirt.
What did you tell me before?
Well,
I didn't pop it for the.
I thought you were trying to be cool.
No,
I thought it's a cool thing.
Let me go through this.
You're not a what?
I'm not a mad dog.
Okay.
I said game one. This is the game one New South. This is the New South Wales squad in 2005, 20 years ago. Just to highlight how different things are. Tell me how many of these players would be eligible for another nation, rugby league playing nation. Minicello.
Yes.
No. They didn't. Italians don't have tests at the end of the year. Matt King, Mark Gasnier, Matt Cooper, Luke Rooney, Trent Barrett, Brett Comorley, Luke Bailey, Danny Badiris, Jason Riles, Hindmarsh, Fitzgibbon, Ben Kennedy. That's the starting team for New South Wales. Not one of them would be able to play.
But the game's changed so much.
Well, that's the point I'm making. Let me get you the team, the New South Wales team from last year. So 20 years ago, not one player in that State of Origin team could represent another nation. Okay? I'm going to get you the last year's series.
I can't believe you're disrespecting the Italian rugby league team there. But anyway.
No, just keep your mouth closed while I get this up, mate. Okay.
Okay. All right. It's great.
Sorry, host.
It's great listening then. Well, host, shut up.
Yes. 2025. That's why I can't find it. I've typed in 25 Origin series and there was no such thing. So last year, squad lists, men's team.
Yeah. This is riveting.
Game one, Tedesco, no. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Swali'i, yes.
Yep.
Crichton, yes. Lomax, no. Luai, yes. Hines, no. Trebojevic, no. Robson, no. Haas, yes. Liam Martin, no. Crichton, no. McInnes, no. Bench, Olakawatu, Spencer Leniu, all can.
Yep.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of your 17 players can represent other nations in 20 years. That's how much has changed. So the rules that as they stand right now are antiquated. You like that word? I like that word. I don't even know if it is a word.
It is a word.
Things need to change.
No,
actually, sorry. Things don't need to change. If anything, they need to become more flexible, not more rigid.
Spoken and authorised by.
See you guys.
I can't disagree with any of that.
I'd like to disagree, but no. I don't like agreeing with Michael, but I have to.
Honestly, you've ruined my rant by talking about my collar. I was going really well,
Well,
and you ruined my flow.
Good, I'm glad.
Because you rattled me.
I'm glad. I'm glad I can.
That's the second disrespectful thing.
I'm
you've
glad
said
I
to
can
me
be
today.
rattling you, Michael. Makes me happy.
I love the fact that Danny's bought in a 30-year-old cap which has got a rusted thing on top of it. It says Super League and has got dust all over it. And yet that wasn't the fashion problem in the room in the last 10 minutes.
I like the colours, actually.
You like
They're
it,
good
yeah?
colours, yeah.
Oh, man.
Were they the colours originally, or they just
I
faded?
don't remember.
Now Chammy gets to blow his own trumpet a bit more. Have a listen to this. This is from
Oh,
early December
Show
when
some
we wrapped
respect.
things up for 2024, when we had a throw forward on this podcast for what to expect in terms of big storylines in 2025.
I just think the future of Daly Cherry-Evans could be a bit of a storyline next year as well. Like, does he play on? Does he not play on? What's going on there? Does he play?
contracted for next year.
Yeah, contracted for 25, but what does he do in 26? Does he play for Queensland? I just think Manly's going to be a big talking point next year. There's a lot of scuttle around Anthony Seibold. He'll get a new deal, but there was some scuttle last year around his tenure and whether or not he would see that out. I just think Manly, keep an eye.
Chammy, hey?
Show some respect.
All over it. All over it. It was only because Danny wanted to get out of here and he couldn't think of anything. And, he's a very much live in the now moment kind of guy, Danny. He's not one to look back to.
A lot of
much or
respect,
look
Chammy.
forward.
There's respect for that.
Live in the now moment. Bloke brought a Super League cap in. Seriously?
It's an anniversary.
I'm just trying to provide some history to this podcast.
You being here is history enough.
Right. Okay. This has dominated everything for the last week and a half, and fair enough too. It's a rather large story, rather strange story. And I was sitting there at Brookvale.
What have you thought?
Well, I sat there at Brookvale on Sunday. I went to the game, and I thought, how has it come to this? That, no joke, 99% of people were just in love with Cherry when he ran out. He ran out by himself.
Really?
He had a whole half by himself at one stage, and the newsstand at the end there gave him a huge, huge ovation. There was a couple of boos. Don't know if they were people in Parramatta tops, just frustrated at life at the moment, which is fair enough. But overwhelming majority with Cherry. He felt the love. He got all emotional, as he said in interviews after the game. And I sat there thinking, so he won't get it any better anywhere else, a reception, wherever he
Yes,
plays.
he will.
Unless he goes to Suncorp for Queensland.
He's going to get a good reception.
Yeah,
with his
wherever
new
he gets.
team.
But that vibe there was special.
Yeah.
At Brookvale on Sunday. Everyone loves him in the crowd, but for a couple of people who obviously have had a rough negotiation and there's been a fallout. So I can't work out still how the guy's walking away from the club. It comes back to one thing I can only see, and that's the disparity in the offer and what Manly think he's but what Manly think he's worth, which was not much, obviously, because there was no offer, and then there was, and it was probably unders what he's worth, and what Cherry thinks he should have got. Anyway, that's where it stands right now.
Smear campaign.
Strong
words.
Strange.
I just think it's a smart move for Tony Mestrov, and there haven't been many decisions that you'd probably look back on with great fondness if you're a Manly executive. But the decision, whoever's decision, to remove him from NRL 360 probably stopped this from igniting.
We know it stopped
Even
it from
further.
igniting. We know it could have got a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have got.
Oh, there's
And-
petrol being flung on that fire from both sides.
Yeah.
Have we
DC
found out
and
why
the
he pulled the
president.
pin? So he was going to be on NRL 360 on Monday.
No.
And
Well,
then it was a
the
late
only
scratching.
way I know that for sure was I heard Buzz on Sky Sports Radio saying he was going to be on. That's
Yes.
how I heard about it.
And he was going to be on the buy round. Great podcast. by
Oh,
the way.
really?
He was going to be on the buy round and pull the pin on that as well.
So,
True.
Ivy, he's woken up, and
I don't think
Tony's a smart kind of guy and gone, you know what? The best thing to do here is just put down the guns and just drop it.
I heard it was
For
a
now.
directive.
Okay, does
Directive from above.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Penn.
that mean that Manly won the PR war or lost the PR war in this? Who's the winner?
I think the reaction Cherry got when he ran out
says he won.
says he won the battle. I don't think the
Battle.
war is over, Denny.
Ooh. Okay.
No, it's not.
So are you saying that Manly could still implode? Is that what you mean? As
No,
a team?
I just think it's now on. We know what Daly's like. Daly will shut his mouth now if Manly shut their mouths. Let this end amicably, which he wanted to do.
And the only reason he actually opened his mouth was because of the lies that were being put
The
out,
smearing.
the smearing. Look, and I'm not having a crack at other journos. I'm definitely not. I'm not.
I want to hear you do that.
I'm not doing that. I'm saying to you that they were being given information and they were trusting their sources, and we both do that.
Yep.
But I think some of the information they were being given was incorrect, and I think it may have been done for mischievous purposes and with the purpose of trying to sully Daly Cherry-Evans' name.
Do you think there are people at Manly who are getting misinformation as well?
Yes, yeah, I do. I don't know if everybody was being correctly informed at Manly. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that. I think there's a bit of arse covering.
You mean in the negotiation process?
Yeah, and just relaying
and
how
maybe
that all went down.
maybe everybody wasn't aware of the true nature of the negotiation.
Well, clearly, communication's been an issue, right?
So I've followed this story. I haven't worked on it. I haven't gone behind the scenes like you guys have and made calls about it. But following the story, especially as a Manly fan, I'm still confused about the timeline of events and what was.
We're not going to go through that.
Well,
we're not going to go through it. Let's not go through it. But what I'm
Danny
saying
was ready,
is,
right?
the fact that
folded his arms, ready to go.
all the information that's come out in the last 9 days means that someone like myself and my mates who are also Manly fans are a bit confused about what the hell has gone on.
At the end of the day, people believe who they believe, and you can read as much as you want to read. At the end, you make your own mind up based on the knowledge of your situation.
Adam, the key points are Daly didn't ask for a 2-year deal. Manly never offered him a contract until the day after Tony Mestrov went on 360 and made that verbal offer. The next day they made a proper offer. There was no offer.
Yep. So this all emanates, like Chammy's reporting, back to
no offer.
December.
Yeah.
November, December.
No offer.
No offer.
The thing that summed it up for me was hearing that they'd been targeting Jamal Fogarty since last November. And then
that's around the time when they started talking to Daly or having a chat. Yeah.
Reluctant to offer him a contract, and then Mestrov comes out the day after Cherry speaks and says we were going to wait until after round 6 out of respect for Daly to make him an offer. Round 6 being, which we now know, the club option in Jamal Fogarty's favour. That's when they would find out whether Jamal Fogarty would be available or not.
So, what I want to know is, throw forward, based on the information that you know, the likelihood of this scenario next season, 2026, Daly Cherry-Evans is taking his talents to Bondi Beach. Had to get that out. LeBron James, shout out. But he's going to play for the Roosters. Toby Sexton will still be in a Bulldogs jersey, and Jamal Fogarty will be playing for Manly. Is that around the mark?
Is that you telling me to guess?
No. Yeah, not guess, but based on the information that's available right now, is that the most
that's
likely
the most likely scenario.
At this minute, if you put gun to head, Roosters would be hat to head, whatever. Roosters would be the club, but that's at this minute. And
those other two moving parts.
I don't think the Bulldogs are lying. I'm not here sitting here covering Gus. You know, if someone wanted to suck up the Gus, it wouldn't be me on this panel. But I think
that's a shot at me.
Yeah, it's a shot at him. I think that
Another one.
In this situation, the Bulldogs have decided not the right move for them because they don't feel that Cherry-Evans probably wanted to go there.
Yeah.
If Cherry-Evans wanted to go to the Bulldogs, when he instructed his management to go out and suss out clubs at the end of last year, the Bulldogs would have got a call.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Okay, so
they know he wants to go elsewhere.
Chammy, do we know or can we say which clubs definitely were involved in that negotiation when Daly was finding out which clubs?
I actually called the Roosters last November. And that's why I said what I said last year. I think the Daly Cherry-Evans situation will
spike.
Will be the talking point of 25 because I had denials, which I didn't believe from the Roosters, that there weren't conversations with the Cherry-Evans camp. I won't name who, but I rang some people at the club and they played dumb.
Yeah.
But we now know that there were conversations with the Roosters.
And when it comes to the Roosters, I was at a last Thursday. I spoke at a Roosters Junior Academy event.
Oh wow!
Well, I was just asked to do a dinner.
Royalty.
Paid gig?
No, I had dinner. Like I went to. They've got this really.
Did you ask me? Well, I have to ask you to go on the buy round, but you don't ask me to go to the Roosters dinner.
The Roosters asked me to go to they've got a junior academy set up in Kingsford.
Yep.
And I went into, they've got I think about 12 apartments where their juniors are housed. And we had dinner with about 10 of their young players coming up. And I was asked a few questions. In that time, Nick Politis was one of the people having dinner.
Yeah. And
I probably mentioned it a couple of times when I was talking how the Daly Cherry-Evans will be at your club next year, which he was giving me daggers about. Then I went and I spoke to him afterwards. I asked him a couple of times face to face. and he was very. He didn't deny it. He wouldn't say no, but he's also swatting me away like a large fly. He didn't want me anywhere near
I think
him.
Nick's go-to when he doesn't want to lie to you is to make up other things like, we're going to sign Kalen and Payne Haas as well.
I think that was mentioned.
Yeah, is that what he said?
Yeah. Who else am I going to sign? I said Kalen Ponga. Goes, who else am I going to sign?
Yeah, Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
So there was no, mate, we don't want him. There was none of that.
Yeah.
Like, whereas they will say that about other players. So he's on
like Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah, they're not going to chase.
Did you say that on Monday night?
I did. Yeah.
What's the go? They're not interested
What,
in Lachlan Galvin, or they're not interested in? Are they not interested in Lachlan Galvin, or they're not interested in dealing with his manager?
I think the second might be the way to phrase it. Yeah. Well, you know that Nick Politis and Isaac Moses do not get along.
But if you really want the kid, maybe you just go directly or go through a third party and try and get it done.
They went down that path with Joseph Suaalii, where Nick re-engaged a relationship with Isaac to get Joseph. That didn't go well for Nick because Joseph ended up going to rugby, and he's just said, "No way are we dealing." Man. Yeah, no way are we do. And so, they've told the Tigers that. How
long the Tigers got to get Lachlan Galvin done with $5 million dangling in the air? That can't go on for months, can it?
No, I think they're going to make a big offer. And it's going to be not take it or leave it, but they're going to say, this is our best offer. This is what we can do for you.
Sorry, Danny, why does it play out that there's an offer there, but it hasn't been made yet, but we all know about it already? Isn't it better practice?
It's our job. We just ask questions.
I know, but from the Tigers' point of view, instead of letting
they're not coming out and confirming
I thought they don't leak anymore.
They're not coming out and confirming it.
I thought they didn't leak.
Maybe they don't leak to you.
Okay.
Weird.
Because your men are gone.
Lethal Lee. How many secrets have stayed out of the Tigers? Things have got out pretty easily at the Tigers anyway.
Danny, knowing the situation reasonably well, do you reckon they'll get him?
No, I don't know. But I do know that they have to strike soon, because if he goes onto the open market, he's going to get big dollars.
Why would you, if you're Lachlan Galvin or instructing him and you're unsure about what your future is, why would you take it up?
Well, if you like the club, would be one reason.
Yeah, I'm saying
that'd be a reason.
If you were convinced
another
that
reason,
the club.
If you like the coach,
yeah.
If you see direction for the club, if you like the direction of the club, if you like the management, if they make you feel comfortable, if you like your teammates, they're all reasons why you do it.
So if he doesn't take it up, what does it say to you?
It says to you that he doesn't like some part of that situation and he's going to go somewhere else. And I think the Tigers know, once they make this offer, if he tells them, I want to think about it, I'm going to go to market, then I think they'll have to realise that there's a big chance they'll lose him.
It's harsh because he's got still so much development. He's still in his development phase. And you look at those last 5 minutes of the Tigers the other night, and they turned into the West Tigers 20 of the last 3 years. And in the last, like they were just making errors. They
should be 4 from 4, the Tigers. They threw that game away, and they should have beaten Newcastle in round 1. They should be on top of the ladder, the Tigers. I'd love to see Lachlan Galvin stay there.
What do you think he'll do?
I think he'll go to market.
When that's dangerous for the Tigers.
Yeah. Because my understanding of the situation is, if you really wanted to stay, the Tigers are in a situation where they can offer you a lot more than anyone else can in the next 2 years. He's contracted this year and next. So the Tigers can give him $300-400 this year, $500-600 upgrade the following year, because he's not on a lot of money. We're talking $800 to $1 million.
What would he be on now, Cham?
That he cannot get. I don't know. I think he's on 2s.
Really?
Because Tigers aren't going to give him an upgrade unless he agrees to an extension, which you wouldn't either. I wouldn't do that if I was the Tigers. But you're talking $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million in the form of an upgrade that no one else can offer you in 25 and 26.
How many other players that you know of, Chammy, you know these things, GM, quite well. How many players in recent times have gone from 200 to 800, 900 in one go, in one contract negotiation?
I think it happened to Cherry years ago, didn't it? He was on peanuts, and then that was the whole drama at the time.
His 2013 contract, backflip, that saga.
When they won the comp, he was on nothing, remember?
Yeah.
I think that was the story.
He just
come
out in the 20s.
Yeah.
So
and then he leads them to a grand final win, and it happened with him. I think it would happen. It would happen to Kalen Ponga. He would have been on 3s, then gone up
Queensland.
to when he went from
7s.
the Cowboys to the Knights. It was a big deal.
It can happen, and it does happen.
But you're
for the wonder kids, it happens.
So there's 2 names there: Kalen Ponga, who's turned out pretty good,
even
though he hasn't led Newcastle to a comp, and Daly Cherry-Evans, who's turned out pretty good. Is Lachlan Galvin in that?
There's
conversation?
a lot of ones that happen that don't. There are a lot of people who get paid a lot of money who don't come good, like Josh Schuster, for example.
Ash, what's he? Ash. who played for Ash Taylor.
Ash Taylor?
Yeah.
He would have done
He
it.
was on $1 million, remember?
Yeah.
And
Anthony
5
Milford
years,
from
Anthony
Canberra to
Milford.
Brisbane.
Yeah, but I still think Anthony Milford was good for a period. I think he was still good for the Broncos for a long time.
I guess the classic story, though, is the Ash Taylor one. He was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Ash, it just didn't work out. But he was on huge money for a long time. And I guess that with the Galvin thing comes the pressure of the price tag. Like poor old Dylan Brown, I'm not feeling sorry for what he's earned, but he's got that pressure now for the next 10 years or whatever it is. And unfortunately, at the moment, it's clear that pressure's getting to him.
Well,
I think it is.
Yeah, I'm hearing he's pretty rattled.
Personally, I just watched him for 80 minutes the other day.
Yeah.
Got no ball. Yeah, I know the Parramatta have changed
4 weeks of that. Yeah. At what point do you
I
go
think he's feeling it.
And I love Dylan. I think he's feeling the heat. I think he's really feeling the heat. But I think this goes a little tangent here, but I think the NRL should step in and actually cap what the players can earn at a certain amount of age. If you are no,
that's dangerous.
Good luck with that, Clint Newton.
No, but it's not good for the player
give
long
Clint
term.
a
We've
call.
spoken about this example.
I know.
So under the age
You
of
and I
21,
both
your
know.
ceiling is 500, for example. Let's just go. If you're under the age of 21, you can't earn more than 500. Do you know what that stops? It stops this situation we're about to see with Lachlan Galvin, where people are going to throw ridiculous money at him because the kid is so good
when he's
to
still
try
in
him.
Development phase.
Is it good for him? Is it good for him to be going through this? Sure, it's great for him. He'll deserve to earn as much money as he can. But as a game looking after these kids, and I'm not just singling out Lachlan Galvin, there is merit in capping what they can earn to stop these clubs paying top dollar and ruining their lives with this pressure and expectation that comes with it.
NBA do it with rookies.
Do they?
99% sure. And I don't know if NFL do it. I don't follow that close enough, but NBA definitely do it, that you can't get that max contract until you're 3-4 years into your career. Because
I don't know what the figure is, but the system, I think the system has merit to look into making sure we don't have situations where Josh Schuster's earning so much and the burden and the pressure, it wipes the kid out.
Before we get off Lachie Galvin, did you know that he actually agreed to go to the Bulldogs before he went to the Tigers?
Yeah.
There was a deal done.
Yep.
And then his agent came in and said no. Like another agent who works at his company said no.
There you go.
That's.
I think the relationship there is with Adam Hardigan. I think Adam Hardigan was GM at the Tigers at the time. He's moved to the Bulldogs now. I think that was part of it there.
Could be a bit of talk about Lachie throughout the year. Unfortunately for the kid, just wanted to play footy and enjoy himself anyway.
I told you we wouldn't go through a podcast without talking about him. Good kid.
Off to a break back soon. Guys, the head-high contact crackdown. Are we shocked? There's always one of these. There's some kind of crackdown. Happily, it didn't happen at Magic Round.
Man, I was so happy.
Before.
I was so happy.
What do you mean?
I was enjoying. I actually said the other day that
less sin bins.
I think this is great. They're letting the game decide, letting the players decide the game, and if there's an incident, they put it on a report and deal with it later and come down hard on them. I felt like there was as a game we were evolving, and then crackdown, and we're going to see sin bins.
Yeah. I really hope we don't. How many sin bins are we going to see?
If it's bad enough, sin bin them. But if it's
8.
just like
8, you guess?
8
this week.
Yep, there will be 8.
They have such a big impact on the game now, don't they? A sin bin, you saw that the Raiders just get 30 points put on whatever it was against Manly, and that sin bins are so. Do we need a lesser, like a 5-minute sin bin?
Yes, 100%.
You think that's what might be?
Yeah, and for repeated infringements, actually they do this in touch footy, and I know people will roll their eyes and but if for repeated infringements on the line, if you get 2 penalties in a row, someone stands on the dead ball line for the next set of 6.
Yeah, so you think that the
Instead
repeated infringement is too harsh?
Touch footy style.
Yeah, let them
You
go
know
off.
it well, Chammy. You're a
great
touch
player.
footy dynamo.
I think the 10-minute sin bin these days is such a big penalty, isn't it?
Is this though in relation to the fact that the rugby league and all contact sports are so shit scared of what will come in 20 years' time?
The legal suit down the track, that's what they're all trying to. That's what
So
we're all working
mitigate against to say to a court of law.
This is all
what we did.
But they've done that. They don't have to do this. They
have to
already.
keep doing it. They have to keep on reinforcing it so they can. So when a player comes back in 20 years' time,
in 20 years' time, when the court, actually, we gave them 10 minutes in the bin.
No, but they say that we were policing it. We were careful. We had crackdowns.
Policing it. You penalise them. You suspend them.
It's more ass covering. That's what it is for future legal suits.
We've said that like 3 times this segment.
Have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
But now you're going to have a situation where any brush with any part of the shoulder.
It's supposed to be forceful direct
No,
contact.
that was the first story that came out. I think the first story
incorrect.
was that it was any contact
No,
you had has
it's
been
forceful,
but Abdo
direct contact.
Yeah, but your version of forceful is different to his version.
What are you
of
saying? I'm
forceful,
not strong.
Yes, which is different to my
Run at
version
me.
of forceful.
I'll show you forceful.
Yeah, righto, tough guy. Jake the Muss over here. With his
I sound like
101.
Stephen A. Smith threatening LeBron James to
Yeah.
throw hands at LeBron.
Yeah.
How good was that?
Does
best
that
was-
make you LeBron? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And he said my son was shit. So, yeah, that's why I've arced up at him. And then Stephen A. Smith goes on. Oh, you would have missed this because you're not
He doesn't
across
even know
American
Stephen
sports.
A. Smith.
Stephen
Yeah,
A.
I've
Smith,
heard
he
of
goes on and goes, yeah, well, lucky you didn't throw one. Otherwise, I would have dealt with him. LeBron James, 6'9".
And they
But
posted
that-
a video of him.
He would have thrown him into Canada.
Oh, mate, it was
That sounds
hilarious.
like something Chammy would say.
Yeah, exactly.
I really loved Stephen A. Smith. He's starting to lose me a little bit. He's starting to lose me.
He bats pretty well, doesn't he?
Peter Volandis. True that he's going to have to pick soon between Racing New South Wales and NRL. Bit of background. I love my racing as well. There's a brouhaha in racing at the moment over the sale of Rose Hill.
A minor brouhaha.
And
It's
there's
major.
Industry
smear
angst.
campaign.
There's a smear campaign against PBL. But yeah, there's like Gay Waterhouse is just adamant that it shouldn't happen, for instance. So does this mean that PBL might be getting jack of doing both and wants to concentrate on one? Buzz broke this on.
Yeah, I think there'd be something to it, and I think that whether PVL is sick of racing or racing is sick of PVL, I don't know racing well enough to know which way it's falling. But from everything I hear, it's not a happy camp and not a happy situation over there, and there are people in racing who don't like PVL. Simple as that. And maybe he can see the writing on the wall, and maybe he's been such an excellent addition to rugby league over the last 5 or so years. He's been outstanding for the game. So perhaps he can see, well, he basically is an executive chairman anyway, the way he is involved in rugby league. The amount of his ideas, his media presence, his influence in the game, he may as well be executive chairman. So I can see to the point where what it's going to come down to is he earns a big salary out of Racing New South Wales. He doesn't earn a big salary in rugby league. Yeah. So the next step is, can league afford an executive chairman to be paid $1 million a year or whatever he's on? Probably. And
Well,
would
they can afford it, definitely.
And
can they justify it is going to be the question.
Yeah, well,
with the clubs.
Sorry, yeah, that's
yeah.
But I think he's pretty sweet with a lot of the clubs at the moment.
I think it's great. I'm not going to speculate what it means for racing because I've
I'm not an expert in that
idea
area
about that field. I'd rock up to a race meeting and interview a horse. I wouldn't have no clue what to do. But
that'd be strange.
Yeah,
I
think that the question will be how will Andrew Abdo handle it? He's been CEO for a number of years now. They're close.
They talk a lot.
But then again, he's
3
CEO.
times a day type thing, or
potentially, yeah.
They're very close. How does Andrew Abdo handle it? And then how much do you pay him? I have no issue with those. I think as a combination, those two have been fantastic for the game.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it, Peter become executive chairman. There'll be some people there'll be the narcs who say, why would we pay this? We're already getting him as an executive chairman anyway. Why would we pay him
that's the role he's been playing, yeah.
$1 million to do it. But as a game, why wouldn't you? Like the game's come on in
you don't want him doing another sport. If you can,
what's he going to do? Go to AFL?
I don't know, but I'm just saying you want him in rugby.
You want him in rugby league.
If you can get him in rugby league, you want him in. And look, Peter's not perfect. He's not perfect as an administrator. There are people who
you're dead. You're off him.
Who don't like the way he runs things. I'm not one of them. I'm just saying there are people who don't look at racing.
Yeah,
there are clearly his administrative style. Obviously, has worn thin with people at racing, right?
Yeah.
And there's obviously a reason that this is going on in racing. Again, I'm not an expert, but the feeling I get is maybe he can see the writing on the wall, and maybe it's time to do this. And the biggest,
maybe he's just tired.
Yeah, he's running.
You've spoken to him a lot. Like, there's some days you think, how do you do it? Like, why do you do it? I know there's the money element, but if you had the choice,
he loves it.
I know, but at some point you got to put your own health and your family. I think now the conversation he's probably having in his own mind, like, how much time can I give to my family? How much time do I actually look after my own health? Because let's face it, the guy's working around the clock. He's killing himself.
Yeah.
I'd personally love him to see him go into the world of football and rock up to FIFA executive meetings and be surrounded by Infantino and Arab sheiks. And
well, you know what? That's what I'm saying. That's what the league probably wants him in their sport. In its sport, we don't want him going to soccer or
Be pretty funny.
AFL.
Let's start it. He's going to rugby.
Rugby.
Oh yeah,
Going to
he's
rugby.
got so much respect for that sport.
Yeah, I think
Scuttle.
the issue is, as you said, Andrew Abdo, but I don't think Andrew's ego is big at all. Like if he had a massive ego, it might be a problem, but I don't think he's got a massive ego, and they work well together. Often Peter's a good cop, Andrew's a bad cop, but that's just life.
Latrell Mitchell, what can we expect from what you've heard of his pre-season? Obviously, he had the setback with the hamstring. Good to see him back. He's playing this Friday night against the old rivals, his old club, the Roosters. But how's he been behind the scenes? Speaking of scuttle, is there scuttle about Latrell and what kind of shape and frame of mind is he?
The only scuttle we're getting is the video evidence that we see, or seeing him face to face when I go down to Maroubra to watch him train. Looks unreal. Looks as good as I've ever seen him, and I think it's obviously the Wayne effect, because he's clearly dedicated himself to being the best he can be for Souths, and I really hope we see the best of him. But there's no scuttle about Latrell at the moment.
I think he's in a good frame of mind. In the conversations and dialogue I've had with him, he seems in a good headspace, and I don't think we'll be hearing a lot from Latrell this year. I think he wants to let his footy do the talking.
So have you asked him for a chat?
Yeah.
And he said?
He wants to let his footy do the talking. But that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Look, he'll obviously have some media commitments that he has to fulfill, but I think he just wants to get back to playing football, and I think going into centre and no pressure, imagine like he went into that game this week against the Roosters, South's doing well, Jai Gray doing well, you throw him in a fullback, and things don't go to plan.
Yeah.
You don't need the pressure of that. And I think it's worked out well. I think Wayne would have done it. Wayne would have put him at fullback.
If
the
Johnson
situation with the injuries in the back line
Yeah.
meant he's got to prepare centre this week. I think it's been a blessing for Latrell.
I think the story with South is there's a story to tell there about what has happened in the last 6 months in terms of how these players got their heads right and then got their bodies right, obviously. You heard Wayne after the last win against Penrith to speak about Koloamatangi and say kind of sacrifices he's made, and he goes, food.
Yeah.
So he's like, these guys have obviously just been absolutely torched in the off-season.
Well, Keon,
physically.
Keon's dropped 10 kilos, and
Jai Arrow looks like a stick as well.
he said the way he did it was he cut out acai bowls after dinner. He was obviously smashing the acai. That's what he was doing. I'm telling you.
It's like 3 tons of sugar. You just
Yeah, well, that's what he's having
sitting on
after.
your guts while you
He was
sleep.
having it after dinner every night, and he said that's the main change he made was giving that up, and he looks amazing. He looks like he's playing. He's back into Origin type form. Are we allowed to talk Origin yet? No.
Clocks haven't gone back.
When's that this week?
Next week.
We spent the first 20 minutes talking about Origin,
Oh,
but
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah.
No, that was a general
know,
selection. That's my rule, all
It's
right?
the Peacock rule.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Clocks go back this week.
Then after that,
Go your hardest next
week,
Wednesday,
Origin.
all right? Yeah, Origin special. We can go for 4 hours if you want.
Called?
Huh?
What's the rule called? It's the Adam Peacock rule. What's the rule?
the Peacock clock.
The clock for cock rule. I like it.
The Peacock.
The cock clock rule.
I'm not going down that path. You can
It's
go
like a
down
shot
that path.
clock, but the cock clock.
We'll talk about it next week.
Hey,
But the point is...
just on Wayne though.
Yeah.
Like I know everyone's saying, "Oh, it's Wayne, it's Wayne." Yeah, it definitely there is that element, but also I think there's a self-reflection from those guys because of what they've been through over the last couple of years, and a realization that they're wasting these years, and to go through what they've been through and have the downtimes that they've had. I think there is that realization they need to aim up.
Didn't Wayne walk in there last September and walk in the room and basically say, you're all shit, you're letting yourselves down and walk out again?
Yeah, that's right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And that
Correct.
he just let that little fester.
Yeah. So I feel sorry for JD that it didn't work out, but I think they had to go through what they went through for them to be in the mindset they are now is try and let these good times roll on.
Roosters 13 plus on Friday night after all that, probably.
Yeah.
We'll see. It should be a great game at Accor Stadium. I mean, we've spoken about it's down here on the rundown, Super League, but
We've done it.
we've done it. We did it up the top.
Mate, we lost
That
3,000 listeners in the first 10 minutes. Because
It was a history lesson. It's the quietest you've ever
Mate,
been
there's a reason
for
I
a
didn't
5-minute spell.
listen to history lessons in school,
Were you good at school, Chammy?
depending what subject.
English?
No.
Economics, yes.
I just wanted to go to PE. I just wanted to do the sports stuff. And then English, I nearly failed. got
That does not
50
surprise me.
Tell. Ask your sub-editor, the most
Yeah, well,
stressed
mate,
person in Sydney.
I'm not in this because I love writing or reading or whatnot. Mate, I just love my footy. I wanted to play it. unfortunately, I did play it. It wasn't good enough. I wanted to play it professionally. It wasn't good enough.
He's still dirty on
Shout out to
Parramatta.
Matt Cameron,
Yeah.
who
I
ended
am
your
pissed off
life
with Cameron.
as a footy player.
That's why
He did. He ruined it for me.
That's why you've got an agenda
Among
against
another,
the Eels.
mate, there's agenda against the Eels. Trent Hodkinson, Chris Keating, they can all go get stuffed.
Well, yeah. The good thing for Matt Cameron is he's got no idea about anything when it comes to recruitment, retention, and development.
Yeah, no,
He produced a team full of. He's basically furnished rugby league with players.
Listen, I tried hard, just couldn't tackle.
That's a problem. That's a slight
Well, some
problem.
people are good at that.
The narrative for next week.
Oh,
I know you
I
guys
never
don't
look at
like
this.
looking into the future, but what will become of Parramatta and Dragons? I like the move that Parra, having watched them last week, have moved with Riley Smith, ex-gun cricketer.
I heard that, yeah.
Like under 19s Australian representative. He was literally choice to make. Footy player, cricket player.
Wow.
Would have been very good at both.
So he's looking at the IPL auctions going, could it
Yeah.
be me?
I'd rather
Or
go
I'm
around and
dummy half of the Eels.
get beat by 30 at Brookvale Oval on a Sunday arvo. No, but he's a good young player, and he really added a spark for them last week. But that's not the story. The story is Gutho against his former mob, Lomax against his former mob. Is there any kind of motivation in either man
definitely.
going
Yeah,
into that one
definitely, yeah.
because of who they're playing?
Yes,
Definitely.
mate.
Whose motivation is greater because of how things ended at their former club?
Well, neither were great, were they? Neither were.
No, they were both bad. Gutho was a bit more. Yeah, Gutho probably in the end more amicable, but Lomax, I don't think he's got a lot of good views on the Dragons. Gutho probably realising the situation with Riles coming in, but yeah, I think it's Lomax, to be honest. I think Lomax is going to go out there and with a
Rip
point
in.
to prove.
Rip in. Good. I like the sound of that. I'm happy with that.
I don't think that's the narrative, though. I still think the narrative, because you grubs in the media will want to feed off this Latrell return. And depending on how that goes, what?
Is that how you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and go, you grubs in the media?
It's like a pep talk I give myself.
I can imagine it happening too, sadly.
He's not joking, is he?
No, he's not.
What?
Yeah.
Well-
You think the narrative is Latrell's return?
Yeah, good or bad, I think it is. And I hope it's good. I hope it's good. What are you sitting there like that for?
I can't believe you call yourself a grub every morning.
Well, mate, you're not?
I'm not a grub. You're a grub.
Please.
Hey.
Have you seen the social media comments on everything you do?
He's just harking back to the Super League times and thinking of all the things that he was
Can I
called.
put this hat on? Honestly, this hat.
that hat's older than you, isn't it?
But who does that? Like, who puts their hat strap on the last one?
All those with big
Maybe
heads.
I've got a bigger head than you.
Yeah. Just don't wear a hat then, because you look ridiculous with it the way it is.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Thanks for the fashion advice, Pierre Cutting.
Well, just got an accent now.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's us. Have a good week.
Peace
Thank
out.
you.